Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Cody Bowers, and I am the host of the Mid South Wrestling Center podcast. Welcome to episode 9. We have a very special guest in the Mid South Wrestling Center today. It is all that Alan Steele. But first, I must apologize to anybody, whether you are tuning in live, listening to on any of our multimedia platforms. Like I was explaining to Alan just a few minutes ago, one of my coworkers at my job got the flu and bronchitis at the same time this week. And by Friday, I guess he had shared it with me. So I'm sorry that my voice may be a little raspy for you guys. But ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. All That, Alan Steele. Alan,
Hey man, what's going on?
how are you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. I don't know if I'm qualified as all that anymore. I'm getting up in age. It might be some of that or kind of that or
Oh
anyway.
yeah. Well, I say with Poker Face Events, you do a lot of stuff, don't you?
Uh, I try to help as much as I can. My body is kind of beat up, so I don't get to fight as much as I'd like to, but I still got that addiction to pro wrestling. So I do whatever is needed of me.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm having to do
Excuse me.
like you. I'm having to put my headphones in. But yeah, just so we do this live. Well, I just added Twitch to this. You're the episode, you're the first episode that we're going live on Twitch with. But
Cool.
on every Monday after each episode, I post it on Spotify, Audible, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, stuff like that. So that way,
Wow.
if
Okay.
anybody wants to listen to your episode, they can, whether they're in a car ride or if they're at the gym or if anything like that, they can just pop headphones in and listen to us.
Right.
But
That's cool, man.
I guess, and also for anybody tuning in live, if you have any questions, we always go over comments. This is live. If you have a comment, put it in the comment section. I'll bring it up on the screen. We'll go over it with you guys. Well, I guess the first topic we're going to go over with you is how'd you get into the professional wrestling business and who trained you?
Well, the story of my beginning is I was a fan from birth, as far as I know. Grew up, born and raised in Memphis. So the Coliseum was a Monday night destination, and the living room floor on Saturdays was a destination to watch Channel 5. We called it Channel 5 Wrestling or Memphis Wrestling. And neither one of those was right. It was other companies, CWA or whatever it was at the time. But I was 21, man, and decided I wanted to try to do this and reached out to a couple of local guys, one being Sid Vicious, who I saw at French Riviera Spa one time. And he was trying to make arrangements to start training me. And it wasn't moving quick enough. So I wrote Power Pro Wrestling a letter. They were on Channel 5 at the time and just asked if they had a school. And they told me, yeah. And Bill Dundee was the trainer. So they gave me Bill's number. I talked to Samantha Dundee. She went over all the details and everything. And a week or two later, I started training in Jackson, Tennessee with Bill Dundee. So yeah, I was trained by the one and only Bill Superstar Dundee.
Cool deal. Cool deal. Yeah, I've met Bill quite a few times in my 10 years.
He's a character.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Most recent time was in Jonesboro, Arkansas. Jason Jones did a Legends of Memphis wrestling show down in Jonesboro. That's actually one of the people I've always wanted to meet in a professional wrestling business. I got to check off my list with that one. That was David Schultz.
Yeah, he was cool. We were there. We wrestled on that event. And David Schultz, he was it was weird because he was one of the guys, the legends that I was like, I wonder how he's going to be to approach. And so me and Barry walked over there and talked to him. He was cool as he could be, man. He was real cool. Barry bought his book. I don't know if he's read it yet, but he was super cool. He talked, he was one of the boys with us. It was really neat.
Oh yeah. Ever since that, I wasn't born yet. Whenever the slap heard around the world you know, was a thing. But
Right,
ever
right.
since I was able to see it, I was kind of like you at first, though. I was kind of standoffish. I was like, I really hope that he doesn't try to smack me one time or anything like that.
Right.
I kind of
It's what
watched
he's
what I
famous
said
for.
around. Yeah. Oh yeah. So I guess we can start getting into some of the companies that you worked for over time. And the first one you just mentioned, I did some research on you, and that's
Okay.
Randy Hales' Power Pro Wrestling.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, tell us, like, you kind of gave us a little bit of how you got into that, but tell us a little bit more
Well,
about it.
yeah, it wasn't like a guarantee just because I was going to that school that I was going to get in with that company. You know what I mean? They they were kind of picky about who they put on their show and who they hired for their company, and you can't blame them for that. But
Yeah.
the fortunate thing was when I was training was a lot of the Power Pro guys who were trying to get more reps were coming to the school, and so I was training with Derek King, who to this day will tell you he made me, and Lance Jade, Blade Boudreaux was there, Naughty by Nature Rude was there, Trey Keller was there. Um, I mean, it was most of the younger guys that worked for Power Pro at the time were coming to Bill's school to get in reps and just to better their craft anyway. So I got firsthand, face to face, got to know these guys pretty well. And then I trained for about only 6 months, to be honest, and then started going to different events. I did some refereeing. I started out as a ref at the Oman Arena in Jackson on one of Bill's events, and then they started me under a mask. I don't know if you're familiar with, but Buff Bagwell, when he got his start, was doing was called The Handsome Stranger in Texas, and he came out and he had like a tuxedo top on and kind of like a Lone Ranger style mask, and he passed out roses to the ladies in the crowd. And Samantha and Bill were in Texas at that time years ago when that was all a thing, and she came up with the idea. We should have him do Marcus Bagwell, have Alan do that. And so that was the first thing I did was The Handsome Stranger. And then after I started going to like Corinth and stuff and with Derek to a bunch of events and everything, one time they were going to have Power Pro. It was going to have an event at the New Daisy Theater in Memphis, and they were looking for another wrestler. I don't know if they were short or whatever the case may be, but Steve Bradley, which was one of the guys under WWE Developmental, they needed an opponent for him. And so they asked Derek, like, who should we have come in and wrestle against Steve? Should we put Lance Jade in there, or should we get this Allen guy you keep mentioning to us? So he told him to book me. And so I got the phone call and went down there and had a good match with Steve Bradley, and got told that night, hey, we'll see you tomorrow morning at Channel 5. And from then on, I was part of Power Pro Wrestling until the day it closed. So, yeah, it was awesome. Randy Hales got my first experience wrestling on television. And I learned a lot while I was there, man, and made a lot of close friends and pretty much like family. Several of the guys were real tight. But that was a big deal for me, I thought, because I made it on Memphis television within my first year of being in the wrestling business. And then we tried to go out there and do the best I could and hadn't looked back. And now that was 1998. So you could do the math. It's 27 years ago, and a lot of bumps and bruises since then. But hey, still hanging on by a thread. I'm still here.
Yeah. Yeah. Not to make you sound old, but 1998, it was actually the year I was born.
Oh wow, yeah, no, that does make me feel a little old.
I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry about that. I shouldn't have said anything like that.
No, that's cool. I've got lately a lot of those. I grew up watching you, and I go, okay, all right, that's enough of that.
Yeah, but I've actually worked for Pro Wrestling Mid South, NWA Mid South, for 8.5 years now, and
right,
a little bit before them. They actually had a Handsome Stranger gimmick for a
really
bit. They did.
Okay.
They did a real, real cut guys. Real lean guy. Freaking
Right.
had the mask, had the single
Yeah.
mask across the eyes, stuff like that. Don't ask me who did it because, like I said, it was a little bit before my time with them.
Okay.
But the videos I have seen of it, it was a pretty neat gimmick. Pretty good gimmick.
Yeah. I mean, one thing it did is, excuse me, one thing it would definitely do is kind of get you away from being too shy, because you had to interact. So it was cool. That Bill's company didn't last too terribly long as far as him putting on his own events because he was still traveling everywhere, wrestling all the time. He hadn't slowed down a bit at that point. So it was kind of it was some stuff to support the school, if nothing else, and get his students places to wrestle and that type of thing. But I want to say it was called West Tennessee Wrestling is what his school was called at the time.
Okay.
And, but it was affiliated with Power Pro. And so that's how I made a lot of connections there and everything. So it's crazy how it's such a small world, but it's such a huge world at the same time,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, we finally got our first comment from Cordell Roberts of all people.
Okay. All right.
Let's see what he's got to come up here and say.
Still want my match. Hey, they say never say never. Although
he's always picking fights, ain't he?
He's trying to make a name for himself. I don't blame you, man. I don't know. Cordell's a big old boy now, man. I don't know if I can deal with some of these horses we got running around. That Robertson family, I don't know what they eat at night, but it's a lot, apparently. It's some big boys. Cordell, I'm not saying it won't happen, but I can't promise you that it will, to be honest. I was supposed to get out of this business when I turned 40, and here I am at 48, and I'm still barely hanging on. So I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to go for 30 years or 50 years old, which one is going to be it for me. So I got a little time left, and if we can make it happen, and if I could get my butt back in ring shape, then we'll definitely make it happen.
Oh yeah. So before the comment has come up, just one thing we're going to stay on topic with Power Pro Wrestling real quick. I don't know if July 10th of 1999 has any significance to you, but it was a match that I actually found on YouTube. It's you and Bobby D versus the Bone Street Crew.
Me and Bobby D versus. I do not remember this. Where it was at Power Pro?
That's what I have written down here.
Oh wait, was that Rikishi's guys? The Bone Street Crew?
Bone Street Crew.
Oh my Lord.
Bone Street Crew, it was it was co-founded by Taker and
BSK,
yeah, BSK, yeah. But this was Rikishi's. I think it was. I don't know if it was Rikishi that was in there, but yeah, it was Rikishi's guys.
No, I don't think he was. If it's the match that I'm thinking that you're talking about, Rikishi kind of was leading that group, and I want to say it was Matty Smalls and Glenn Kolka. And they just destroyed us, if I remember right. But
yeah,
I mean, unless you, oh yeah, because
but yeah,
no, hey man, I'll proudly say that I'm probably the last guy who really paid dues on Memphis television. You know what I mean? I cut my teeth the old school way, getting my ass handed to me. I wasn't young and getting a lot of favors. They made me earn everything I got. And the thing about that is, those guys, me and my partner were far, far outmatched. I mean, just standing in the ring and watching these behemoths walk towards us.
Yeah,
we knew we weren't winning this match, but we were going to go down fighting as much as we could. So I earned respect from Rikishi and those guys from that match, though, which was that's a big deal to me. A lot of guys just want to be stars. I want to be looked at with respect from my peers. So it's a little bit different with me. But I earned respect. As a matter of fact, although they kicked our butt, Rikishi talked to me afterwards and gave me some some advice. And I couldn't say, "Hey, go gain 400 pounds and then come back and fight us," But I mean, he gave me some advice, and we've always been nice and cordial. I can't say I could pick up the phone and call the guy or whatever, but every time we've been around each other, he's been super professional and cares for this business, and obviously got a family full in it right now. But yeah, I do remember that now because I think I took every big move that they could put on me, if I remember right. I remember taking a power bomb, and I think Rikishi gave me that sit down Rikishi driver, and I was scared to death. But yeah, I mean, I earned my stripes, you know what I mean? But yeah, that I didn't know the date, but yeah, as soon as you said those guys, there was only one way that match was going to go.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, hey, like I said, the Bone Street crew eventually, they become a pretty big. I don't think they ever truly actually become like a trio or a group or anything like that, but it was kind of more of a backstage type
Yeah.
deal with, it had Taker, it had Yokozuna, it had, it just had after I looked up all the members, I couldn't tell you. It had a full list of members, but it was.
Oh yeah, Godfather I think was in there, and
yeah,
and it's all because they played dominoes, if I remember right. That's what they would call the dominoes with bones. But yeah, they would all play dominoes to pass the time in the locker room when they get to TV or whatever super early. And some guys played cards, but their thing was dominoes. So that's how they kind of formed their whole thing. So yeah, super cool though, all of them.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, now we're going to fast forward a little bit. I'm going to shoot another date at you. Maybe it's a little bit more consideration. September 14th of 2003.
No.
Maybe the event will be a little bit better for you. It's a WWE Sunday Night Heat.
Oh Lord. Oh yeah. Another tag match. This was me and Rude. My first opponent, I don't think I mentioned that earlier. He was my first opponent as the Handsome Stranger was Rude.
Yeah.
But yeah, we wrestled against Garrison Cade and Mark Jindrak.
Yeah.
And and they did that drop kick power bomb combination finisher move on me. I do remember that one very well. I was surprised. I watched it probably a couple years ago. Somebody had sent it to me. And I don't recall all the details of the match, but when I was watching, I was going, "Oh, we actually got some offense in instead of just getting brought up here to get our asses whooped." But yeah, it was that was a cool. That whole trip was really cool because Poker tagged along with us, and Poker ended up getting more work out of it than we did, and he wasn't even booked. So, but it was awesome. Yeah, me and Rude still discuss that match quite a bit because he still owes me a power bomb from that match, but I'll never get it. I already know that.
Yeah. For Poker Faces episode, we actually went over his match also because he was in a tag match as well against the Basham brothers.
Yeah, because he got power bombed by the manager, right?
Yeah. Their female manager because they were doing some kind of like gimp type.
Yeah, S&M type thing.
Yeah, where she would whip him to get him into give him a little bit of boost and power and
right.
It's like that wasn't, as R-Truth said, I don't think that's PG.
Right. No, it definitely wasn't.
Yeah.
They pushed it right to the edge though, and came on back. So yeah.
Oh yeah. Next company I guess we're gonna go over is USA Championship Wrestling Nashville.
For Bert Prentice, that was
you had a stint in there.
Yeah, and it's funny. So Dustin Starr had gotten booked to go to Nashville to work for Bert Prentice, and I just told him, I was like, me and him were gym partners at the time, working out together and hanging out and stuff. And I just told him, I said, look, man, I'm not booked. I get it. I said, if you need somebody to ride with you, I'll ride with you, if nothing else. I ain't got nothing else. I'm not booked. I'll, go up there and if they need me, then fine. If not, hey, at least you ain't got to drive back by yourself, So went up there and started wrestling for Burt Prentice and his company USA. And I remember I scared Burt to death. He was walking around the ring one night, and we were in somewhere in Kentucky, and I charged the guy in the corner, and he moved, and I went through the top in the middle, and it caught my shoulder on the post, but it spun me out of the ring, and I landed on the floor right next to Burt, and he screamed and like very high pitched scream. Yeah. And came to the back after my match and cussed me out. And I was like, wait, whoa. He goes, I thought you died. And I was like, no, I'm not dead. I'm right here. He goes, you scared the shit out of me. And I was like, well, I apologize. But yeah, I couldn't help it. My momentum took me out of the ring. So, but yeah, Burt was cool. Burt was, man, his personality and not in a negative way really, but he was a moody guy. He was like flicking a light switch, he'd be cool as he could be. And then you could look at him wrong sometimes and he'd kind of get an attitude, but in half the time he was messing with you, just, goofing and stuff, but you couldn't tell with him. You couldn't tell, but he was an interesting individual to work for, put it that way. He is not as a knock, but if there's a carny in the wrestling business, Burt was a carny. I mean, he did all the carny stuff, everything. So great promoter though.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You had a kind of a stint in whenever he kind of remodeled USA Championship Wrestling as well, right before he passed, right? Were you a part of that at all? I can't remember. It's been.
I don't think I went. You know what? I went and wrestled Matt Boyce one time. Okay. Towards the end of his company. But as far as being there on a regular basis, no, I wasn't. I think Derek was when they were running around Jackson instead of Nashville. And Danny Dollar was, but no, I wasn't. Once I'm sure you'll bring up TCW shortly, but once I went to TCW, then that became like my priority over everything, and so I didn't make a lot of the other towns and stuff anymore because I was really focused on that and training for that. And yeah, so, but yeah, I hate that Burt is now no longer around. He was always pleasant to me and very nice to me. Some people have other opinions or whatever, but hey,
yeah,
I'm sure there's probably a bunch of people that don't like me either, but that's all right. That's on them, not me.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems to be the world of professional wrestling, especially nowadays, where everybody has their own opinions about anything and everybody.
Oh, yeah, and all their opinions are correct, apparently. So, yeah. Politics, religion, and wrestling.
Yeah. Yeah. A name that I had actually missed in my topics. See, I had Jason Peter Rose on here last Sunday.
Boyd.
Yeah. One name that I did bring up that he kind of was standoffish with, that didn't really want to talk about, that you actually had a match with, was a gentleman by the name of Tony Falk.
Really? He didn't want to. I wonder what that's about, because Tony Falk, again, everybody has their own interactions. Tony Falk has never been anything but gold with me. Okay. I mean, a legend. Always wanting to help the younger guys, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know what kind of, bad paths crossed with them two, but I've never heard anybody say anything bad about Tony Falk. He was never the standout megastar, you know what I mean? Yeah. He was never the Jerry Lawler or the Bill Dundee around here, but Tony Falk was always included and welcomed and respected. Like if you talk to a lot of the guys, like when everybody in Memphis, they say whoever has made it has come through Memphis. Every one of them will probably speak highly of Tony Falk because they all had to be in the ring with him, and he knew his position. He knew what he was supposed to do, and he did it, and he did it well. And, now his son wrestles, and I don't know if his son wrestles much anymore now because he's been around for 20 plus years now too, I'm sure. Seems like anyway. So I don't know if he's still active very much or not. But LT, he was a machine at one point, man. He could go all night. He was a bad dude too.
Yeah. I don't think it's more specifically that JPR had something bad to say about Tony Falk. It just whenever I did bring up because he's had a match with Tony Falk before, he just didn't want to.
Yeah.
He didn't want to talk about it right then and there. And like I
Oh,
said,
okay.
I don't, I don't like, bringing up anybody's personal stuff. So I had completely
Oh,
forgot to bring it up with him off camera
right,
or
right,
anything
right.
like that. So we have
Yeah. When
another comment, and I don't know what this means,
okay.
but it's the golden one, the golden boy, Greg Anthony.
All right.
I don't know exactly know what this means.
No
You're gonna have
gloves.
to, maybe
So
you know what it means.
yeah, I do. I have a reputation of sorts of throwing pretty stiff forearms to the back.
Okay.
And
All
so
right.
glomming somebody across the back.
Yeah.
And Golden Boy has a story he loves to tell about how I lightened up on Carlito, but nobody else. Yeah, nobody likes to feed their back to me. Everybody stays away from me in battle royals and stuff like
Yeah.
that because I'm out hunting. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, if nothing else, they say a heavyweight boxer never loses his power. I've always got this to rely on, if
Yeah.
nothing else.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I don't know if you know the name right off the bat, but we have a guy. He's our current unified heavyweight champion. He's the Real Foot Saint, Brandon Ray. You may know his brother,
I
Blade.
think I've met Brandon. Uh, well, yeah, I think I've met him. He's a how tall is he? He's like 6'1", 6'2", somewhere in there.
Probably a little shorter than I'm 6'3". He's a little shorter than I am. He's
Okay.
about 300 pounds.
Yeah, big kid. Yeah.
Big kid, real big kid. He's our current unified heavyweight champion.
Okay.
Man, he's definitely one of those guys that I would recommend everybody keep their eyes on.
Okay.
Downtown Bruno absolutely loves him, all that kind of stuff. But he's kind of got the same. He's got the same stint with his chops.
Oh yeah. Okay.
He's one of the ones that everybody avoids in the battle royals or anything like that.
Right.
Because he goes in there with that. His hand looks like a daggum baseball mitt.
Yeah.
And so
he's got some bear paws. Okay.
Oh yeah. And his chopping is his favorite thing.
Of course it is. Yeah, that's like Chris Lex has got the hardest hands I swear I've ever felt in my life. And Chris Lex would chop, and it's like, dude, my skin is coming off. Like, what are we doing? So, and it's funny. So the chop thing is why I started throwing the forearms. I was badly sunburned one night at a wrestling show. And I think it was a battle royal. And Rude, I was in the back, just pretty much yelling at anybody who would listen, don't chop me. I'm sunburned. Rude chopped the shit out of me. So I called him, I turned him, and I about knocked his freaking chest out from his back. His spine almost came through the front. And so after that, I go, okay, I'll combat these chops with these. So yeah, if you chop me, I'm going to glom you.
Yeah, even though I've never gotten a chance to actually wrestle and step in the ring, I think that's the one thing I've always heard and learned is don't tell somebody not to do something to you.
Oh yeah,
it's going to motivate them. It's going to motivate them to want to do it even more.
Yeah, and, if nothing else but to rib you. Yeah.
Yeah, just to kind of give you, not to stay on Brandon Ray for a minute, but it was before he come to Pro Wrestling Mid-South, NWA Mid-South. He went and wrestled a kid that he was actually one of Greg's trainees. He come to the Pro Wrestling Mid-South Academy. I think he started wrestling a little bit for the company, and then he got that big head on him that, hey, I'm gonna go out here and do whatever I want to.
Oh, okay.
I don't care what anybody else thinks. Well, then he
Yeah.
ran into Brandon Ray, and the kid, he had a chest tattoo. Brandon was telling me the story. He has his chest tattoo. It's like an Indian or something like that. It was like a couple years old. You know,
Yeah.
he had gotten it because he's a motorcycle guy too. Well, they got to the, they were in the back. They were trying to, Brandon was like, hey, what do you want to do? All that kind of stuff. And, they called it out there. Well, they got out there and Brandon started calling stuff and the kid didn't want to do anything that Brandon said. And Brandon warned him quite a few times. He said, listen, kid, you going to start listening a little bit. He didn't listen, chopped him one good time, took the ink out of a 3-year-old tattoo.
So that's great. I've got a story similar to that. Austin Lane?
Yeah. Yep.
So Austin Lane had surgery one time, and I don't know all the specifics, but I know some reason his nipple, they had to remove it and reattach it. And Austin Lane's not going to miss a night to wrestle at all if he can, unless he's in a coffin somewhere. So he came back to wrestle probably earlier than he really should have. He still had stitches. And I don't remember what, I think it may have been me and him one-on-one. And I glommed him across the back and I knocked his nipple off. His nipple was in the ring. So he always reminds me, goes, you knocked my nipple off, right? And I'll go, I forgot about that. But yeah, I should get it framed and put it up in my man cave.
Yeah, that's almost equivalent. I can't remember who did it because it just slipped my mind of who knocked Mick Foley's ear off.
Well, really, the ropes did, but I think it was in a match with Vader over in Japan.
I believe so.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember how that happened or anything. It was just the most random thing. It's like 1 minute,
right?
He's got an ear. Next minute, it goes flying, and now he ain't got an ear.
Yeah, he's only got half of one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But speaking of chops, I think I don't know if Greg Anthony's still on this or listening to this. That's one guy that also kind of tries to stay away from chops nowadays.
I don't blame him. Chops suck. Chops are effective, and some guys, do them very well. But man, they suck after a while. They hurt.
Yeah. Well, now that he's got his heart stuff going on that he's been dealing with.
Oh, that's right.
Also, that's another reason, especially from Brandon Ray. Sometimes he'll let old Brandon, maybe give him 1-2, and then I think he soon realizes why he doesn't take chops anymore.
Yeah, had to kick Brandon in the knee or something. Get away from me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess the next company we're going to go over with, you had a kind of a stint in Corey Macklin's Memphis Wrestling for a while.
Yeah, a short stint. I actually got fired from there.
Okay.
People talk about Corey Macklin's wrestling and being whatever. Seems to be how it works. If you were a part of something, you think it's greater than it really was. To me, Corey Macklin, and I'm not trying to speak ill of the dead, but to me, Corey Macklin was never very good at being whatever in pro wrestling besides. I mean, honestly, they kind of got used by Lawler and some other people. In my opinion, this is just my opinion. I have no facts or anything to back this up. But I just had a hard time respecting, and this sounds so negative, but respecting somebody who your only job is to sit there and call out do the commentary on these matches and stuff. And you don't care enough to learn the names of the moves. That always had us in a sore spot with me, but I mean, he was a hell of a salesman and a businessman. And so that's why he was around, I'm sure, we had a miscommunication, which blew up to a backstage altercation, which thankfully got calmed down before it got really ugly. And I was going to quit, but at the same time, I was being fired the same day. So I didn't miss being there at all. I tuned in every now and then to watch the clowns. I had an interest in the
Yeah.
clowns that were on there. That was the most entertaining thing on the show to me. And outside of that, I just didn't give two flips about watching, Corey's show. I think truly the last real Memphis company, in my opinion, was Power Pro Wrestling. And the reason I say that is because you had people in charge like Randy Hales and Brandon Baxter who had been in the business, who had learned, all the booking and all the psychology and all the stuff that you really need to have a successful company, instead of just saying, hey, I can get us on TV, let's get a ring and have a company. I think that they were the last true, real professional company in Memphis. That's not a knock at anybody. That's just to me that if you don't have that background, you know what I mean? That's like hiring somebody to fill an upper level job at some, any industry, and you just hire some kid just because he's available. You know what I mean? Instead of hiring this guy over here who's got 20 years of being around the geniuses and the people that lay the foundation for everything that we've got today. That's what Randy and them had. Brandon got all his, or majority of his from when he was down in Texas and Global Wrestling, and he learned a lot down there. And just being around and all those locker rooms back in the day, all that stuff, just you inherit all that information and all that knowledge. And just after that, it was just like, I'm a salesman. I'm going to put wrestling on TV, and let people do what they want to do. And, there was never a real good boss. And I'm not knocking Jerry Lawler, but Jerry Lawler's not a good boss, in my opinion. He just, nothing, no preparation, just, he's a genius and he's a fantastic wrestler and he's a Hall of Famer and a legend. And I'm not trying to down him, but as far as taking it seriously and really, treating it like a career and a job and something very important, it was just kind of like, he treated it like a hobby, really. And, all the focus was kind of on himself and, and that's fine. Even after Jerry Lawler no longer is on this earth, he will still be the biggest wrestler in Memphis. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the legend he has become and has created for himself. You're talking I don't know, was it the late 70s or the 80s when he got started? Until today, we see people talk about wrestling in Memphis, Tennessee. They go, "Oh, Jerry Lawler." They don't go, "Oh, anybody else." It's, "Oh, Jerry Lawler." So he's the man and always will be. I just don't see anybody surpassing him on that.
Yeah, I think the way he got the king, the king moniker, was I think he beat Jackie Fargo, didn't he?
Yeah. But really, I think Bobby Shane, I think, was the guy who he kind of, I'm going to say, patterned himself after. I want to say stole the thing, the idea from.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, what really took him to that next level is taking on and finally defeating Jackie Fargo.
Yeah.
And then after that, it was, the rockets were strapped to him. He was all the way above everybody else.
Yeah. Also, wasn't it? I can't remember if it was Jackie Fargo that somebody had let him like at first borrow the crown and cape, and then like they eventually never got it back from him or something like that.
Yeah, and I've heard that. I've heard that on somebody else's podcast, and I don't remember who it was.
Yeah.
I'm sure Derek King would know because Derek is the biggest Jerry Lawler fan of all time, probably. Yeah. So he would know that. Yeah, I don't know. That might have been that Bobby Shane guy too, But I know that he apparently was out doing the King thing before Lawler was.
Yeah, that may have been actually who it was. That may be why I don't remember the name. Maybe.
Right.
That.
Well, because he was before my time, so he was certainly before your time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. we keep bringing up Derek King. That is one name I'm trying to get on this podcast.
Oh, that will probably be very easy to do. Actually, right now, let's see, it's
Yeah.
maybe not yet, but today is his final match. He says, you know what I mean. So he'll be open for podcasts and all kinds of stuff after in the next couple hours. You'll be able
Oh
to lock
yeah.
him down
Yeah.
because I'm telling you, man, he's my guy, and he's not handling this really well personally. He's
Yeah.
this stopping or retiring, from wrestling is hitting him pretty hard right in the heart.
I
And
noticed.
yeah, so anytime he gets to kind of talk about it, it makes him happy, But he, I think he's got more physical and health issues than he's putting on. And when I say health issues, I don't want people to freak out or nothing, but I just think that like he probably could use some time off and a lot of visits to the chiropractor, and you know what I mean. He used to take some big old bumps back in the day and never took time off to heal up, So his body's probably beat up a little bit, and he's just 1 year younger than me. So Father Time is catching up to him too. So he today's supposed to be it. And then I'm sure, and I'll say something to him. I talk to him on a regular basis, and tell him to get in touch with you. And I'm sure he can get him on there.
Well, I actually have a co-host, but he's been having some family problems that I haven't been able to get
Okay.
on. Blaze Ray. We missed him
Okay.
earlier.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he reached out to Derek for me, and Derek was like, well, I'm kind of busy right now, with his shoot job and other stuff, which I completely understand. It's just, one day I still plan on trying to, maybe I'll reach out to him personally
Yeah.
and see. But yeah, I've been watching his lives lately, and it's kind of like I told Jason Peter Rose last Sunday. Deep down inside, you can tell that Derek King doesn't want to stop.
I agree.
Yeah.
He's unsure of life without it. He really is. And I told him, I said, man, it's not supposed to be an easy adjustment. You've been doing it for 30 years. Anything you've done for that long and you're going to stop, it's going to shake everything up. So, I think he'll be fine, man. I mean, he's got his kid, he's graduating high school this year. He's got a lot on his plate. Derek's got a lot on his plate. So he'll be fine. He'll find something to keep him busy. And long as he's distracted, he'll be okay.
I was about to say, you, Poker Face, him, and I think Dion Bowman. At the 4. You guys,
that's
all
the round table.
Yeah, that's the round table.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. You guys 4, I think you guys meet up once a month. I know I watch Poker Faces post a lot about it.
Yeah, and, we do. We meet up and have lunch. And I tell you, so that whole thing was my idea. Okay. I knew, I don't know, the last couple of years that I wasn't going to have a whole lot of wrestling matches left in me. And so I created a group of guys who all are local, nobody who had to, drive an hour plus to get here or anything. All local guys around Memphis and South Haven area, all that. I said, hey, y'all want to meet up once a month? We could just go have lunch, cut up, talk about the old days, talk about current stuff. It's like getting to go into the locker room once a month with a group of guys that you like personally and get to cut up and clown with. And so, and I had about 8 or 9 people originally that I invited. And so, I mean, half of them didn't even bother responding. I said, okay, fine. No problem. And then, I had rules, and the rules were, no seconds. Nobody brings their kids. Nobody brings their wives, girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever. This is a time for us to get together and just enjoy our friendship that we've, put together over the last almost 30 years we've all known each other.
Oh, yeah.
And so some of them don't show, some of them break the rules, and they all get eliminated from the group. So it ended up down to me, Poker Face, and Derek. And then we invited Dion to come, and he's like the generation behind us, but mentally he's one of us. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
um, he he got adopted into the group. So now we have 4, and we're not adding any more members. Now we might have some guests every now and then. It seems some of the guys are like, "Hey man, how do I go? Meet up for y'all?" Blah blah blah. If we want you there, you'll know it.
Oh
So
yeah,
it's so.
yeah.
And again, I'm not trying to put anybody out. Make them come in from Timbuktu or whatever. We all live around Memphis, Tennessee. You know what I'm saying? So it's easy for us to meet up. 20-minute drive or something like that. Wherever we pick a different restaurant every time, and so we've gone over to Dion. Dion is a practically a chef on his grill. So we've gone over to his house, and everybody put in, and he cooks up a bunch of stuff, and Poker Face eats all the spaghetti, and doesn't save much for anybody else. But it's a blast, man. It really is. And I knew that was something I knew I was going to need as I slowed down traveling and competing. I knew I needed that camaraderie still. And so that's why I created that whole thing. So yeah, we just met up for January. So we've got our date for February, and we rotate who gets to choose where we go. And this time it's my choice. So haven't made up my mind yet, but yeah, we're gonna get together, and I hope this stays a thing for a long time, because it's really cool, man, just to get together. And we talk to each other all the time anyway, but being there face to face, we can really interact, and we try not to make too big of a scene in these restaurants so we don't get thrown out, but we have a heck of a time, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, just kind of go back to our last topic just for a couple minutes with Corey Macklin's Memphis Wrestling.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, you're not the only one that talking about how Corey Macklin ran the whole thing,
right?
Because there's still kind of a, not really a joke, but there's still kind of a long-standing thing that I bring up to John Michael all the time, because I see him every Saturday night in Dyersburg.
Yeah.
You were talking about how Corey Macklin never, cared enough to remember moves or hold names and stuff like that. He didn't even care enough to, whenever he brought in Picture Perfect, to remember their own names.
Oh, really?
The longest thing is because, like, John Michael would be in the ring, and he'd be like, you'd hear, "Okay, ladies and gentlemen," in one corner it's Christian Jacob. Like, that's not Christian Jacobs.
Yeah, that's the other guy.
That's the other guy. And then it would be like Corey Macklin would mix their names up also. It'd be like, one is like John O'Neill.
Oh, yeah. He just mixed them. Yeah, because O'Neill was with him. There's 3 of them at one point.
It was 3 of them at the time, yeah. Yeah, that's around the time I was born and raised in Ripley, Tennessee.
Okay.
And that's how I had gotten into watching professional wrestling live. I was adopted by my grandparents when I was 3 years old.
I got you.
My grandfather would always put me in front of a TV screen, watch wrestling. Well, then about the mid 2000s, whenever Timothy Lee Cummings decided to open up TLCW.
Yeah.
That's what I grew up watching: TLCW, EWE, all that kind of stuff. I think you had a couple stints in a couple of those companies, didn't you?
Yeah, I came to TLCW, and there was a few name changes in Ripley, and I was there for including Power Pro. Power Pro ended up relaunching there too. But I wrestled there. That whole, for a while, man, that Ripley, Dyersburg, New Bern, that little corner up there was a hot commodity. There was a wrestling company across the street from every Walgreens. I mean, it was a lot of wrestling going on in that small area. And then once you got out of like Ripley, it kind of slowed down when you get to Covington and coming back this way. So, but yeah, I mean, there was a lot of wrestlers and a lot of companies in that smaller area up there. But yeah, I did it. And Dyersburg was hot at one point, man. I know when I first started going to Dyersburg, It was a place called Peppermint Pond.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And there was also the Walkers had their company, and it was over there. Ah, man, I don't remember the name of their company. Anyway, it was. I know that it was like on the parking lot with the Huddle House restaurant because I threw big nasty Bill off the roof of that place one time, and yeah, but they were there because they were. I think that was Alvin and them had like a part of the NWA at that point, maybe. A
Warriors.
WOWF, Warriors of
Yeah,
Wrestling,
Warriors
yeah,
of Wrestling
WOWF,
Federation. Yeah.
and because I wrestled there, and then we wrestled at Peppermint Pond, and then when they opened that entertainment center up, which I think now was like a veterinarian thing or something, it's a big old animal hospital or something. But that entertainment center was like compared to a lot of the other buildings, it was like the Madison Square Garden of that part of the state.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was perfect for what we were all, the goal of growing something local. That was absolutely perfect. It was good times back then. Everybody was working hard and trying to be a star. And you had a lot of people who the fans cared about a lot, and a lot of them, including myself, who they hated quite a bit. But
Yeah.
they did, man. Dyersburg was like way up there on like the places to go. If you were going to wrestle in West Tennessee, Dyersburg was the place at that time for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. Well, I guess the next company we're going to get into, you actually brought up earlier, was traditional championship wrestling.
Yeah. No, that is the favorite company I've ever wrestled for. My absolute favorite company. That's where I met Cuz, Mr. Saturday Night, Michael Berry.
Yeah.
That's us right here behind me on the
Yeah.
post or banner here. That's where we formed our tag team Genetic Perfection. And that was a company that was very special. Like Power Pro Wrestling to me was my first taste of like the brotherhood of pro wrestling and getting lifelong friends and stuff like that. And they went out of business when Power Pro closed down. That it hurt my heart. I didn't know what we were going to do because we all put a lot of passion and really dug deep for them. And then when TCW came around and I started going there, I got to meet my manager, Rich Rude, and like I said, my cousin, Michael Berry. And those guys are family to me. And then that company was on the verge of being monstrous. It really was. It had all the makings of being the next, like when Ring of Honor was done right, it had all the makings of being on that level at least. And even like probably it could have stood toe to toe with TNA, I think.
Yeah.
Of course, WWE is always going to be on an island by itself, but yeah, TCW had the potential of being like a major number 3. I truly believe, and it's probably part of it because I was there and I cared so much about it. But it was just good wrestling, man. I mean, it really was, and you got to spend money to make money, and they were spending a lot of money. They had satellite trucks and they were doing big stuff. They really were. Brought in names, but made in-house, stars as well. So yeah, that was my favorite time in my career for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. We had a comment from Greg Anthony earlier. He was one of the guys in TCW, and I think he would say I think he said it on a podcast, and I talked to him about it all the time. Also, is one of the many reasons why TCW didn't keep going or take off, more or take off or become as bigger as it did, is because they just plain out didn't have the same network, you know,
Yeah.
behind them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was really it was a one man effort as far as it was Matt Riviera's baby. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Okay.
He didn't have, just a boatload of sponsors and companies investing in that tape. I mean, he was spending a lot of his own money, to get that going because he believed in it.
Yeah.
He believed in us, and so he handpicked every member of that roster. He traveled around and he literally, if he didn't had put his blessing on them, they didn't show up. So
Yeah.
it was now that was the destination, in my opinion. A lot
Yeah.
of guys were hitting me up wanting to see how to get there. And I told them, I said, look, you got to contact the boss. I said, now, when you show up, more than likely, you're going to have to face me because they started calling me the measuring stick there. Anybody new, you had to get in the ring with me. And if I gave you a thumbs up, you probably came back. If I gave you a thumbs down, we didn't see you no more. So, I mean, we were picky. We were very picky. We didn't want any, I hate to say scrubs, but we didn't want anybody who wasn't ready to be there. We
Yeah.
took everybody there, took personal pride in that company. And I mean, it brought in like Wolfie D who stayed, and we had that feud with them, him and Roosevelt and Tim Storm and I always forget his name. What's the big guy? He's in AEW now. Tags up with Brian Cage. Got the long ponytail.
I know who you're talking about.
He was in WWE. He was in TNA, and now he's AEW. But he came and he stayed, and he was there regularly. And I mean, they brought in legends. Like I got to meet like Jake the Snake Roberts and Hacksaw Jim Duggan. You know what I mean? Got to wrestle Hacksaw Jim Duggan at one point. So I mean, it was the place. It really was. It was, and it sounds kind of braggy. It put a lot of these other companies to shame. It really did. And it just because the on-air product, the quality of the cameras, the quality of the announcers, just all the wrestlers, and just the professionalism, the way it was ran as a business, was leaps and bounds above like anybody else around here that I've wrestled for. I mean, and that's again not trying to knock anybody. Facts are facts. They were on a level all by themselves as far as the Mid-South went, for sure.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. 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 I hear nothing but, great things about TCW and everything like that. I actually tuned in. I don't know, you were a guest, I believe on the Wolfie D did where you got all you guys together on a podcast for it. Yeah, I remember tuning in for that. I listened to all of that. And I was just kind of completely amazed about, how many people had more nicer things to say about TCW than there was never anything bad. And
right.
I just kind of wish I was, I don't know what year TCW really ended.
I can't remember, man. I really can't. I know I can tell you though, when it did, Jack, I felt that's when my passion for wrestling changed, because like I was so vested in that company, you know what I mean? And we were trying everything just to push it to the next level, and not even for, and speaking for myself, not even because I knew I was going to make more money, but that wasn't the main thing driving me. I just believed in the company. It was kind of like some of the guys at ECW, had the Tommy Dreamers and the Bubba Ray Dudleys and those guys who still to this day speak highly of ECW. Although you've heard a lot of crazy stuff about that company, it was a little bit of that in TCW as far as the way we looked at that company. We really took personal pride, and like you couldn't talk bad about that company to me and not get into at least a dispute. It might boil into an argument. You know what I mean? Like you got to prove to me what you're saying is right if you're going to down talk, that company to me. So, well, especially with all the other companies around that you could easily point out 10 things worse than anything you could say bad about that place. So, but yeah,
Oh yeah,
that was the spot, man.
most definitely. And so I guess we're now going to get into another topic, and then we're going to get into another company. The next topic you actually brought up at the beginning of the TCW thing. You faced a lot of guys in your time. You've tagged with a lot of guys in your time.
I
So
have. I had a bunch of partners.
yeah. So tell the people at home, what was it about Michael Berry that made you go, okay, this is my tag team partner, and we're going to call ourselves Genetic Perfection.
Well, all right. So I was already being managed by Rich Rude,
Okay.
and uh, I don't remember what town it was in Arkansas, but they actually had me and Michael Berry as opponents. We were going to wrestle against each other,
Okay.
and they I don't remember. There's some build up to it to where I ended up putting Michael Berry into my steel trap submission hold, and that was setting up. We're going to have the one-on-one match. And so after we had this one-on-one match, this is the first time I'd ever laid my hands on this guy. I mean, there's always a filling out period when you wrestle a new person, because you're putting your body on the line. You're kind of leery of, probably don't take as many risks as, you would with somebody you're familiar with. From the jump, though, I just had this feeling. I was like, because for one, I'd heard nothing but good about him. And I was like, okay, cool. And I said, we'll see how good he is in the ring. As they tell me characteristics of his personality. He's a great guy and yada, yada, yada. And I heard he was a good wrestler. So, and I hadn't seen any film on him. And I usually would watch some film, but for whatever reason, I hadn't. And so when we wrestled each other, I remember during the match thinking, I feel like I've wrestled him before. And there's a lot of similarities between he and myself, in my opinion. And so it was at that event. I want to say it was at that event, or maybe it was the next one, that I proposed. I asked him, I said, look, man, what do you think about being a tag team? And he was no hesitation. Absolutely. Yeah, let's do it. So, because I knew the company was kind of looking for something to do with their tag team division.
Yeah.
And because I like the singles titles, that was Tim Storm was going to hold that down, and he had, they keep bringing in opponents for him and that type thing. And me and him had some bangers ourselves, but I was like, man, if I'm really going to excel in this company, maybe we could do something with this tag division and make a name doing that. And then at some point, maybe go back to the singles. I'd be okay if I stayed in the tag team for the rest of my career. Plus, I knew in my mind, I knew I could pace myself better and I could have more exciting and more impactful matches because it's not just me. You know what I mean? If I'm tired or if I'm hurt, I can tag out. Same thing with him. You really have a support system there. And I just always found tag team wrestling very exciting because you've got more people involved, more movement, which creates more energy and you get that back from the fans. So I just told him, I said, look, man, I said, I think we could, really do something. And, we kind of favor each other a little bit. And so I was like, hey, we're cousins. If the Andersons can be cousins, by God, we can be cousins. So we are second cousins. And Mr. Rich Rude was my manager, and he took us under the wing. And he actually came up with a name, if I remember right, because if we were sitting around going, all right, what do we call ourselves? And Rich Rude, if anybody in the tag team fits the title, it's him. He's shredded, ripped, and he's older than both of us. I don't want to say his age, but he's at least 10 years older than both of us and jacked. He was trying to be a wrestler early on and hurt his back to where he couldn't really do all that physicality anymore. And so they wanted to make him a manager, and they stuck him with me because they thought I could help him out and, that type thing. But we were like, well, what's the name? And you have to know his voice, but he goes, Genetic Perfection. And I go, sounds good to me. So we were born right then, man. So took off and bonded instantly with Barry and with Rich. And yeah, man, it was the ride of a lifetime. It really was. And I don't even remember how long TCW, was around, but I just remember it being super special to me. If nothing else, for getting to be with those two guys. And there's a host of other guys in the locker room who were super cool and stuff, but literally like bonded with them strongly and like immediately for whatever reason. I can't really explain it that well to where it makes sense to anybody but myself. But yeah, those are my guys, man. Those are the ones like I'm right now. I'm kind of working on perhaps getting the band back together for even if it's just one more time. But Mr. Rude has moved far away, so it'd be hard to kind of get him involved. Barry's in Missouri, but he's never sit still. So I know he's down for making a road trip. So yeah, we're gonna see what we can do later on this year, perhaps to get us all together one more time at least before we all say the heck with it, So yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to get with Greg Anthony to find out exactly, but it's my understanding that traditional championship wrestling still airs.
Yeah, in Arkansas, absolutely.
Yeah,
they renewed it for like 10 years.
Yeah.
It'll be on the air for at least the next 8 or 9 years because they just renewed it for like 10 years, like a year or so ago, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, that's crazy. Still in households. Still in households today.
And when it was rocking and rolling, man, I mean, it was on the air overseas, like a lot of places. That's why it was to me, it was so much bigger than everything else. Like we were literally being seen worldwide, Africa and Asia, India, I want to say, over in Europe. Like we were on the air every freaking where. And it wasn't just a, local, which I don't even know if people put wrestling on TV anymore. It's all YouTube and streaming or whatever. But it was big time. And that's just, it was big time.
Oh, yeah. With it still, like I said, with it still being on air, maybe just maybe one day, since it's on a loop, maybe somebody with the money and something like that may be able to buy it out. Maybe, just maybe,
Yeah,
since
who
it's like
knows?
it's still aired. It's like you say never in the world of professional wrestling.
That's very true.
But speaking of Genetic Perfection, I think the last match you guys had, we mentioned Jonesboro, Arkansas. Was that the last time you guys wrestled together?
Yes. Yeah. As of now. Okay. Yes. That was it. Yeah. And that was fun because I went into that event with the mindset of this might be it, so I remember I was very tired after that match because we put out so much energy, and that's not like me typically. That's not. I usually pace myself, and but I went out there and exhausted myself because I thought this truly could be the last time that Barry and I get to share a ring together, and hopefully not. But if it is, I'm grateful for that. I just wish Mr. Rude had been there for that. He'd have had a blast. So I got to have one more with all three of us though, for sure. That's what I'm working on. But yeah, that was the last time that we were all, or Barry and I were together. Yeah.
So with me being in the business for 10 years, I've gotten a kind of this thing of where I can now kind of watch matches, sit there and watch matches and kind of catch little things here and there
Yeah.
from them. We'll talk about it off camera because I don't want to sit here and bury nobody, but me and you
All
will have
right.
a off screen conversation about that match.
Okay.
Two things that I think I caught that maybe we can go over off camera. Like I said, I don't want to bury anybody or anything like that was in that match. And
Okay.
it wasn't you guys. It was your guys'
Okay.
opponents.
I got you.
Because I kind of know because one of your opponents, actually both of your opponents, had actually worked for Pro Wrestling Mid South like a time or two. So
Okay.
I kind of know. I kind of already seen how those guys work, and we'll talk about that after after the live
That's
streams off, stuff like that.
that's fine.
But I guess the final company we're gonna go over is how do you want to call it? I call it Dustin Starr's Memphis Wrestling. Because
Yeah.
truly, without Dustin Starr, I mean
Yeah.
it wouldn't be
No,
what
it's
it
his
is.
company.
Yeah,
It's
it
100%.
wouldn't
Well,
be what it is.
it's him and his wife's company. I put it that way. She had a lot to do with at least
Yeah,
the beginning of it. I don't know how hands on she is these days. I don't even think she does the commentary or whatever anymore. But from what I understand, she's a very busy businesswoman and she doesn't have a whole lot of time for wrestling. So, I mean, I get it. Yeah, you got to do it, bringing in the money. So, no, it's definitely Dustin's company, 100%.
yeah,
And when he started it up, he and Maria met with me and Derek, and we went and sat down and ate and discussed what he was wanting to do, and he wanted us to be involved. And I had already, like I said, after TCW stopped, I kind of my passion for being in the ring wasn't really didn't exist much anymore. You know what I mean? So I told him I'd be willing to try to help him out however he wanted, to try to get something because I've hit everything on my bucket list has been checked. So if today I grab my gear bag and set it on fire and never look at it again, I really don't have regrets. I don't. I did say that I would like to help something locally kind of get on its feet and get a start, because I'm a homebody. I like nothing more than doing nothing. I'll be honest with you. I love
yeah.
sitting on my couch playing with my dog and hanging out with my wife. That's what I like to do. And so uh, going to and dedicating a lot of time and effort into another wrestling company was a lot to ask of me. And so I was like, well, I'm with you. I'll try, I'll help you the best I can. And knew that, you kind of knew the direction the company was wanting to go. So went to work for him and had the stint as a champion. And just when I lost that title to Bret Michaels, I was like, this is a perfect time for me to bow out because I didn't want to be on this TV. I don't want to be on the screen to start with. I didn't. I just wanted to help out behind the scenes and that type, agent stuff and produce or whatever. And so and he's going to start a school, I was going to help train that type thing, that stuff. That was fine. But as far as just the, responsibility of going out on the show and performing, I didn't have it anymore. I didn't care about it enough to do it anymore. It's weird. I was telling a buddy of mine, I feel like I've outgrown pro wrestling a little bit and it sucks because that's all I've wanted to do, but I mean, when you know that you can't physically do the things that you could at one point, without it hurting really bad, when and you accept that, then, it's like, okay, it lightens the blow, but you don't want to be a shell of yourself. You know what I mean? You don't want to go out there and have people, because everybody who's watched the Memphis area has always thought that Jerry Lawler, Bill Dundee, all these guys should have stopped competing long before they truly did. and I don't want them saying the same thing about me. You know what I mean? If I stepped in the ring, I want to look like I at least stand a chance. I don't want people to go, he looks too old to be doing this. And as the gray as my hair is getting, that's here.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that. I mean, they're still going. They're actually having an event today. You got Matt Riddle booked, and they're Derek's last match, that type thing. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what specifically you want to know about that company, but yeah, we helped them from day one.
Yeah. Not to well, I'm gonna bring him up anyway because I have kind of a little bit of history with him. But the gentleman that Derek King's last match is with,
yeah, Simon
Reed.
Yeah,
Love Simon to death. Heck of a guy.
Yes, he is. He's a very, in my opinion, a high quality human being.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Would give you the shirt off his back for real.
Oh yeah.
And is probably more committed to that company than he should be. To the point where I don't want to say he could. I don't know if it's happening or not, but he has such a loyalty and friendship to Dustin and that company. I hate to see if someone were to take advantage of that. You know what I mean? And I don't know that that's happening. But I'm not saying that Simon is some gullible guy because he's a big old boy. If he got pissed off and said no, then no is the answer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I just talked to him on the phone the other day, and he's a cool dude, man. I remember when he first started in Dyersburg. Storyline was that I broke him out of jail and got him into wrestling. But he's a hell of a guy.
Yeah, I think I just saw one of his super early matches. I think it was you and him.
Okay.
I believe. I think it's I cannot remember what his name was.
Was it when he was Kryptonite?
No, I think it was actually before that, I think.
I don't know what he was before Kryptonite.
At least it looked like him. It may have not been him. His last name Martin, I believe. That may have not been him. I don't know. It looked exactly like him.
Oh, okay. Where was this match at?
You just had to ask because I just literally saw it. It was it was it's I did a lot of research on different matches. Brad Martin versus Alan Steele.
Oh, was that for USA?
USA.
Yeah. I saw that. Somebody
that is Simon.
Yeah, that's Simon.
Yeah, that is Simon. Okay, I was right.
Greg might have sent that to me. I don't know. It's been a few months. I think he might have sent that to me because I got that match and then one with Timothy Grind, or I think he was Tim Davidson. His real name.
Tim Davidson versus Alan Steele here.
Yeah. That's USA also. Yeah, because we were there, and then those guys started trickling in, and I was kind of the same thing there. Most of the new guys had to wrestle me to get approval, or to see what they knew that it was going to be a decent match at least. If they were in there against me. So that's I never had to be the guy anywhere. I just wanted to be a guy, there. So that's just because I loved wrestling so much.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we were kind of talking about TCW and TV deals and stuff like that earlier on, but not to put like I said, I've worked for Pro Wrestling Mid-South for 8.5 years, and we've had a couple opportunities where we could have TV deals, and we never had the crew to put it together. But it's
a lot of work.
I am kind of proud to say that we are set up with a sort of kind of a TV deal right now.
Yeah,
we debut in a couple weeks on it. It's
awesome.
It's something called Abundant TV, it's a Christian, it's a faith-based, because we are now a Christian-based company.
Yeah,
wrestling
yeah.
company. But they have their own app, and it's available on Roku channel, stuff like that. They currently
Okay.
have a wrestling company out of a different state called Wrestling for Christ.
Okay.
But they had a falling out, and then the powers to be at Pro Wrestling Mid-South received the call, and so we just submitted our first episode. So we don't, for Pro Wrestling Mid-South, a lot of people, we try to sit there and say, hey, keep an eye on us, but we don't post a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
because we want the how can we make money if we're posting everything on YouTube every week?
If you're giving it away for free. Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. So that's kind of the mindset of it is, people can go, well, why should I have to go pay $5? I can just see it on YouTube Sunday evening. We post it every Sunday, so But yeah, this is a huge opportunity. So I'm gonna try and put it over with every guest and on every podcast episode, but it's gonna be a pretty big deal. It's definitely give a chance to everybody to keep an eye on us now.
Well, that's good, man. I know. Is Greg an ordained minister now?
He's an ordained minister, and he also,
I know he was doing weddings and stuff like that at one point.
He actually married me and my wife.
Okay, maybe I heard you tell somebody that. Yeah.
July 2023 is when me and my wife got married. No, 2024.
Okay.
Excuse me, 2024.
Okay.
Yeah, we actually got married at the Dyersburg building in our Hall of Champions.
Okay. Funny thing about weddings, I guess. So, Michael Berry and his wife got married the exact same day as me and my wife.
Okay.
So if we're a tag team, brother. We do stuff together. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we got a couple more topics left, but we got one more. We got another comment. It's John Michael.
Okay.
I'm gonna let you read that one out.
I appreciate that. John Michael was always like our Barry Windham back in the day. Had that look, and I think if I remember right, he and I tagged up once, and may have been just once at Wildfire Wrestling for Kevin Lawler, and I think Tattoo jumped off the top of a cage onto us. I've been hitting the head a lot. It's hard to remember some of this stuff. But John Michael was always a really, really good guy. Again, I like quality people like Simon, and you know what I mean? If you're a piece of crap, I won't have much to do with you. But John Michael was always a solid guy, I never like wrestlers like me because of my work, because I don't hang out with a lot of wrestlers outside of, the buildings, the arenas and stuff. I was never one to go to the clubs after the show with the guys, and which, that might be a good thing. That might be a bad thing, because those type moments allowed a lot of those guys to become real tight knit and real close, So my relationship with a lot of the wrestlers is different than a lot of the other guys. Mine was always pretty much based on respect. And I'm not saying that they don't respect each other, but friendship didn't get in the way. You know what I mean? Like sometimes friendship will allow you to be taken advantage of or be misused. And that I never gave that the opportunity, because I always separated my Alan Steele life from my Alan Lamb life. So I kept that very separate on purpose. But I could sit back and just observe, and I could see, okay, I got time for this guy. I don't have time for this guy because he's doing too much, pre-gaming over here. And by the time the bell rings, he can barely walk to the ring, that type, and my body and my health is on the line. If I go out here and wrestle with you, I don't have time for you. John Michael's always been in that class of guys that I could make time for. Good, solid guy, a lot of potential as far as in wrestling. Good mind for wrestling. And if I remember right, one time he went to Canada to do some training, if I remember, like with the Hearts or something, right?
Yep.
So that shows you the dedication to the wrestling business. And funny story about him, and this is third party information. I was never told this, I don't think myself, was that match, that Sunday Night Heat match with me and Rude. Originally, my tag partner was supposed to be John Michael, but he couldn't make the trip for whatever reason, and Rude got put in his spot. So originally, it was supposed to be me and John Michael on Sunday Night Heat instead of Rude. So, I mean, he had opportunities later on, but I think that was his first opportunity. He didn't get to make it.
Gotcha.
And he could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's what I always heard.
Yeah, because I think he's still on here watching. But me and him, he was one of my earlier, podcast episode guests.
Yeah. Okay.
And I still kind of gotta get another episode going with him because we missed out on a lot of stuff to talk about.
I gotcha.
But the for as long as I've known John Michael, which I've known him for the 8.5 years I worked for Pro Wrestling Mid-South, I don't think not enough people know how much John Michael has truly done for the professional wrestling business, especially in this area.
Yeah. Okay.
He's had his, let's just say he's had his hand in a lot of stuff.
Right.
I know Derek King talks about him a lot. I know Derek King absolutely loves him because he used to agent a lot of Derek King's matches, I believe.
Yeah, I heard Derek say something about that the other day. I guess he was helping him put the events together or something at one point, which that was news to me. I never knew that, but yeah, if that was the case, he was doing a good job.
Oh yeah. Like I said, John Michael, he's also one of those guys. He'll get on the podcast and he just he just puts you over, but he's also one of those guys that he doesn't like to be put over himself. And
yeah.
That's also one of the the great thing I love about him as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you ever lose your humility and your humbleness, people you'll fall out of favor real quick with a lot of people. So the ones that you find, the ones that holler about themselves all the time, they're really not as great as they're trying to convince you that they are. So if you're good, you don't really have to say it that much because other people are saying it for you. And there's some guys that they live on social media and Facebook and stuff, just wearing themselves out, patting themselves on the back, but if they were truly as good as the big of a star as they say they are, they would never have to say it. Everybody else would tell word of mouth, hey, such and such, you should watch this guy, you should watch this guy. But no, it says they don't. They feel like they got to scream their own names from the mountaintop, and make themselves known. It's a self-promoting business, so I get it. But at the same time, there's a fine line of doing it right and doing it wrong.
Oh yeah, and I think there's enough people that has put John Michael over so far in the business that he knows.
I don't think he's one of those guys you're not going to hear anything bad about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think anyway.
No,
again, I wasn't at those clubs and stuff after the shows with the guys. He might have some dark secrets and skeletons in the closet, but no. Yeah, he was, like I said, always a solid guy to me. And he stood out because he had some height, and everybody around here is 6 foot under, it seems like, and he had the height, he had the long hair. I mean, nobody can say this is the reason that he didn't go further. I don't think anybody can say this is what stopped him, because really, if you think about it, you can't do that with anybody, because there's guys that have made a career at pro wrestling that you would have never thought in a million years could have. And then there's guys should be making a living doing it, and they never get the chance. So it's a puzzle that doesn't have like a solve. You can't figure it out.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I guess the next thing we're going to get into is, like I said, in your career and time in the business, you've faced a lot of people, tagged with a lot of people. What could you say was some of your most maybe memorable matches or moments in your career?
I've been lucky to share the ring with a lot of talented people. As far as like TCW goes, I would say like I had a singles match against Tim Storm one time that was I mean, it was like a hoss fight. We were in there, everything was, solid, and the crowd was biting on everything. It was a magical match. And we got to the back, and everyone was like, dude, that was fantastic. You feel it
Yeah.
because I mean, whether you boo or cheer, the goal is kind of the same, to give the fans the show that they paid to see or exceed their expectations. But we had that feud in TCW with Wolfie and Roosevelt. And so I don't know if it was the last time we wrestled each other, but I think it may have been. We did a stipulation to where to win the match, you had to put the opposing manager through a table. And it was, I don't remember what arena we were in, but these were the most solid tables I think ever used in wrestling. I mean, Wolfie, I pushed him off the top rope. He did a forward flip, hit the table, and bounced off of it like a rubber ball and landed on the guardrail. And I was like, oh, he might be going to the hospital tonight. And so the end of the match, I ended up splashing Boyd Bradford. Yeah. He was laid on the table on the floor, and I came off the top rope and did the splash through the table. And you talk about a hit. I wanted to hurt him, because he was on the other side. But I was like, I don't want to hurt him that bad. I know that hurt because it took a lot of impact to break that table. But that feud with them was really cool. Like, we did some pretty creative stuff with them. A moment that I remember, and there was a former mayor in one of the towns in Arkansas who got a little carried away one night and jumped the rail and came after and grabbed Rich Rude by the leg and snatched him. Like, he was on the floor and Rich Rude was in the ring, and he snatched him down into a split, basically, and was trying to pull him out of the ring. And so I reached through the ropes and I grabbed the guy by the shirt, and he tried to get out of the shirt, like slip out of it, and it got hung up on his arms. And so I twisted it around his head and I started waylaying this guy. And I got about 3 or 4 good shots in, and Barry stepped out on the apron and got a running start and stomped that guy like he was trying to put out a fire. And then security grabbed him. And then by that time, Rich Rude gathered his senses and he slid out the ring and dove on the guy. And the match wasn't even over yet. So we had to go back into the ring and finish the match. But I was so hyped when I got to the locker room. I could have fought everybody back there, man. I was so pumped up. I was like, bring somebody else. You want a piece of us? Come on. I was so fired up. But yeah, that's one of the moments I will never forget, because I was like, who the hell was that guy? They said he used to be the mayor here. I said, are you kidding me? So and so TCW put tables up around the ring instead of like the guardrails. They used those plastic tables. And so like if you got the ringside tickets, you had a table you could eat your concessions on and stuff like that. This dude moved the tables out of the way to get through there, the barricade, and came in there and grabbed him. So we didn't know who he was, but we weren't going to take no chances either. So we put some knots on his head and sent him on his way. But yeah, I mean, there was a few like that. I'll tell you, man, we would look out the locker room window and see the fans lined up like literally around the building. And people say that, oh, standing room only got it. There was a few times that they would be, oh man, it was like, I remember it was down one wall, made the corner, went all the way down to the end of the building, out into the parking lot. And I would never imagine that many people waiting on the doors to open at a wrestling event, because I've been in some buildings where you were lucky if your friends and family showed up. I mean, it was real small crowds, but just everything like that. I mean, the opportunities I got to work with like Jerry Lynn, actually Greg booked me against Michael Elgin in Jackson, Tennessee. And I've heard nothing but good stuff about that match, and it felt good to me. I was actually a little sick that day and I was like, oh crap, I went 100%. We went out there and we had a good match, and Elgin is a monster, man. That dude he grabbed me, and I've never felt helpless like that before. Like, I don't know if I could have got him off me if he decided this is it for you. I mean, this dude is stupid strong. Him and John Cena are the two strongest wrestlers I've ever stepped in the ring with in my life. And John Cena threw me like a dish rag one night, and I was like, what the hell? But this Elgin's the same way, man. He's a power lifter. And, at the time, I was probably about 250. That wasn't nothing to him. He just chunked me around, and I was like, golly, I'm 250, and I'm having to stick and move on this guy because he's such a beast, But yeah, that was a good one. Man, it's just it's a lot of them. Like I said, I got to work with Jerry Lynn in Cookeville, Tennessee. Sir Mo had booked a show there and brought in several of TNA guys. AJ Styles was there. Jerry Lynn was there. I did have that match that I wrestled Sonny Siaki over in Arkansas, and Mick Foley was the referee. So I'll never forget that because I got to interact with Mick Foley also after the match, and he gave me Mr. Sacco. And so just getting to rub elbows with people like that, and just being around a lot of legends, but I mean, as far as like some of the local guys, me and Poker Face one time had a match at the entertainment center. And so the story is Jerry Lawler has started taping his television show in Dyersburg at that entertainment center building. They were doing it on Wednesday nights, I want to say. So it was going to be Derek King and Dustin Starr versus Jerry Lawler and Brian Christopher. That was the main event. And so when everybody was, in the locker rooms and stuff, and when Lawler and Brian got there, they came back there and they kind of looked around, and you could tell they didn't want to be in the locker room with everybody else. They wanted their own locker room. And I get it, but I took offense to that. I'm like, hold on, dude. You're one of this crew tonight, get dressed, whatever. Of course, they made arrangements. They got them in a private dressing room and whatever. So I remember Derek and Dustin disappearing. They had gone to the private dressing room too with Brian and King. And so I got hot. I got real mad when they walked out, and I was wrestling Poker Face, and I was gonna not necessarily just mail it in, but I wasn't gonna put my foot to the pedal because I wanted to save, you build to the main event. And when they did that, I changed my mind. I said, I tell you what, we'll see if they can follow this shit. So went out there, and me and Poker tore it down. I mean, hard hitting, fast action. Crowd was going crazy. And then it took a lot of the air out of the building before that main event. Not the most professional thing to do on our behalf. Really, it wasn't. But at the same time, neither was what they did. So I was like, okay, I got you. You know, I can be petty if y'all are going to be petty.
Yeah.
But that was one of my favorite matches too. Was when we really we said, all right, let's go show them what, you know, how this is done, and we did. It was really good, man.
Yeah, it's kind of like I don't know if you ever seen the movie, but I always like those documentary movies about musicians' life. Like, you know, one of the ones about Ray Charles. There's another one out there about Jerry Lee Lewis. You know, there's
Okay,
a one
yeah,
called Great Balls of Fire, and it
yeah.
was one of the moments in the Great Balls of Fire movie is Jerry Lee Lewis wanted to uh as we call it main event
Yeah.
the concert, but it was in Chuck Berry's
Mm.
contract where it said that he was to main event every single concert that he was in.
He
And
goes
so
on
what
last.
yeah, so what Jerry Lee Lewis does is he goes on before Chuck Berry and he tears the house down. He sets the piano on
Right.
fire.
Yeah.
And then he kind of, as he's passing by him in the back, he kind of gives him that condescending. There's a lot of history behind what was actually told to Chuck Berry, because there's a word in
Yeah.
there that we're not going to use here.
Oh,
That I'm not
gotcha.
even gonna mention. But
That was a good
yeah,
luck following that.
yeah. And so it was that that kind of reminds me of that a little bit.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
we got another comment.
Okay.
John Michael again. Something memory lane here.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that too. Yeah. Everybody was doing everything you can imagine. Every flip, flop, fly that you could come up with. We had guys that could do all that stuff, and nobody was wrestling. And so, yeah, it was like, all right, we're going on the mat and we're going to stay on the mat as long as we can. And, you know, I don't even remember the outcome of the match or anything, but I do remember, you know, it was kind of proving a point a little bit like, hey, guys, this is what it says on the marquee still, you know, it's not just gymnastics, you know. So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that was a good time too. And nobody got hurt. That's always a plus.
Oh yeah. Yeah, most definitely. Well, you know, we bring up Poker Face a lot, and you know,
Yeah.
you and Poker Face have main evented quite a few Millington Mayhems in your time.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So
Got scars
tell us.
and bruises and
Yeah.
tables, and yeah, we get wild, man. He likes it full contact, you know. He doesn't likes to take the guesswork out of it like I do. So it anytime we're across the ring from each other, it'll stand out. It's gonna be high impact. It's gonna, you know, you there's no leg slaps on punches, but there's a lot of slapping on chops and forearms
Okay.
and you know, I mean, it's physical. It really is. And Poker Face he's kind of half crazy, to be honest with you. He gets like, you hit him and he wants you to hit him harder. And I remember the first time that I realized that, I think we were at the New Daisy and I was punching him. And most guys try to, you know, get out the way of the punch so it don't hurt as bad. He was headbutting me in the hand as I was throwing my punches, to the point where it was hurting my hand. I stopped punching. And because that bone right here is very hard, and he just kept drilling my hand. And I was like, well, I'm not breaking my hand for this guy. So then I don't know what I went to next. I think I started giving him kicks or something. But no, we've had some knockdown dragouts, and he's mentality wise, he's old school with a twist. That's how I like to classify myself. To where he he believes in, you know, the storytelling, if you will, and the psychology of matches and that type thing. And he, like I said, he wants the fans to get more than their money's worth every time they come out. And that's the responsibility when you're in the main event, So we've gotten a little crazy. I mean, with tables and chairs, and he's got a scar on his back because that damn ladder slid, and he slid down the edge of a chair. And he's got I don't know how long that scar is, but it looks like he had surgery on his lower back, and that was in our match. And I never want to hurt nobody like that. You know what I mean? I want them to know I was there, and I want to beat them. But I never, I remember when that happened, I was like, what the hell? Because we were going, and he had set something up with a ladder on it and some chairs. He was going to try to put me through the ladder, and I ended up getting him. But when I went to spin him to give him my twisted steel, his foot hit it. Yeah. And it spun, and it knocked everything out of the way. And I was already committed to the thing, if I remember right. And bam, and he bled like, oh my God. And
the thing about this is another part of that was the night actually downtown Bruno turned heel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the chair, the whatever was put in between the chairs wouldn't stay. So even Bruno had to come out, and he was trying to get it, to where it'll stay. And even whenever he did get it to stay, it freaking ended up moving.
Yeah. Because I think Poker had set it up, and it might have fallen, and he set it up again, and then it fell again, and Bruno set it up, and then Poker's foot hit it. I said, we're doomed. But man, yeah. But we've taken stuff, backdrops on the floor. And so a few years ago, when my neck and stuff had gotten pretty bad, I had stopped, taken time off. And so he and I were matched up on Millington Mayhem. And I don't remember what number. He always remembers the number. And it was his first match in over a year. And it was my first match in almost 2 years, I think. And, jokingly, the guy who was kind of directed traffic and stuff, he was like, we need y'all to go 45 minutes. And I said, excuse me? I haven't wrestled in 2 years. And I said, I can go 4-5 minutes, maybe not 4T5 minutes, but we got out there and got lost in the moment. And I think we went 47 minutes and fought in the crowd, knocked over the tables with all the merchandise. It's the gloves come off when he and I step in the ring against each other. It's all right, here we go, So, he's one of my favorite opponents, though. I'll say that, because he's one of the ones that I wake up on Sunday morning, Monday morning, Tuesday, even Wednesday of the next week going, that was a fight. That was a heck of a fight, So, but yeah, he's stepped away kind of, a lot too now, because he's older than me, and I'm so glad I can say that. But he has stepped away as far as the in-ring stuff for a lot. Now he's I think supposed to compete at this one, or I know he's at least a standby to compete at the one this year.
I know he's on the graphic.
Yeah, he's on the graphic. He's kind of a attention whore, so he's going to be on the graphic whether he's going to be there or not. But we'll see. I guess they'll start releasing all the videos and stuff soon. They usually start in January, early February, really promoting and trying to spread the word. So I'm sure something will come up to where either we'll know for sure soon if he's competing or not. So, but yeah, he's one of my favorites, though. Always has been.
Oh yeah. I've known Poker Face pretty much my entire time I've been in the professional wrestling world.
Yeah.
And I met him because I started actually on my 16th birthday, May 6th of 2014. And I started with Rashard Devon down in Ripley.
Yeah. Okay.
So I started with RCW Pro Wrestling down there. and pretty much doing what I'm doing now, backstage audio announcing and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And
Well, that's
that's where I
cool.
met Poker Face. Yeah.
Well, RCW was actually my company. So I don't remember who was running that building before, but I had some guys approach me wanting to be trained. And I don't
Yeah.
own my own ring. I don't have a building to put a ring in or anything. So I never have purchased a ring. So and they lived up around Ripley in that area. So
Yeah.
I talked to that Mr. JC that owned the
Mr.
building.
JC White. Yeah.
Yeah. And I asked him, what he would charge me to just rent that, building out every Saturday so I could come up there and train those two guys. And so he really liked having wrestling in Ripley. And so he was like, I won't charge you anything if you'll put on a show, a
Yeah.
weekly show.
Uh-huh.
And so I was like, well, I didn't want to do that, to be honest, because I know that's a lot of commitment. You know what I mean? And at the
Yeah.
time,
Yeah. Yeah.
I was just trying to train some people and stay out of the way. So
Yeah.
anyway, I finally agreed to that, and I was like, at least let us pay the utilities because I don't like people just giving me stuff. I feel like I need to do something as a
Yeah.
trade or whatever. So it was a deal. We pay the utilities and didn't have to pay any rent on the building, but had to put on a wrestling show.
Mhm.
So started doing the wrestling show all in all just to have an opportunity to use the ring to train some guys.
Yeah.
So after training for a little while, one of the guys was kind of ready to get his first match in. So we set that up, and I think Poker Face was his opponent actually. And the other guy, he wasn't catching on quite as fast, but he was starting to catch on pretty well. So I was waiting, to get him to that point. And then I had stuff going on personally and everything. So I ended up just having to tell the guys, look, man, I'm not going to be able to keep, continue training you. Maybe, if I find somebody who could take over to kind of finish you off, and then, you can keep going or whatever. So anyway, I had Poker Face coming and he was wrestling and stuff. And Richard had wanted that building for a long time. He'd wanted to run that building. And so when I got that, I knew because Richard had already told me if he could ever get in that building, he thinks he could make a killing in that building. So when I got it, I called him. I said, hey, I got the building. So here's the deal. I'll do the wrestling. You do everything else. And so that's what we did. He handled the concessions and he did a lot of the other stuff that I just don't have the time or patience to, to bother with. And so when I decided to stop, there was a couple times and I couldn't make it. And just say, hey, Poker, I need you to hold it down, run it, blah, blah, blah. So I'll file and Poker would say, I worked him into taking it over. And so I just kind of eased my way out of it, and Poker kept it going for quite a while. And I guess at some point that's where you walked in and got to work. And so, RCW started with, it was me and Richard really.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was I started. I was there our last 2 years, 2.5 years there.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It
And
was
do
like I said, it was,
y'all run that now?
yeah.
Y'all run that building now on like Fridays or something, right?
Yeah. Yep. Every Friday night.
Yeah.
They Pro NWA Mid South at the time. It was so weird to me. It was like, you get used to doing something every single week. And then
Yeah.
it just gets like gets swept out from underneath of you. Well,
Right.
it probably wasn't even 2 months later, I got word that another company was taking over the building. So I was like, "Hey, maybe I'll go check it out." Well, so weird, I went in, paid my $5, sat in the audience, stuff like that, and I was kind of sitting there watching. So I was like, it's just so weird to me that, I know the building. It's just I'm
Yeah.
not having to get set up like I usually do, make sure the audience
Right.
good,
Right.
stuff
Right.
like that. Well, after about a month, I started chatting up with the lady who was running the concession stand. Come to find
Hmm.
out, Greg Anthony's wife. And he was out of town the last time I had talked to her. And she's like, well, just message him and I'll tell him about you. I shot him a message, told him what I could do. He said, hey, can you meet me up there a little early Friday evening and Friday night? I said, sure. I worked on the speaker, got it working again, and off I went.
Yeah.
Then here I am 8.5 years later. Almost
Right.
9.
Right.
September of this year will make 9 years.
Hey, yeah, you're a third, a third of the way as long as I've been doing it. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you don't have to get punched in the face.
Yeah. I'm happy about that. I'm good where I'm at. A lot of people, oh, you're I'm 6'3", 300 pounds. They're like,
Right.
oh, you should have been a wrestler. I wanted to be a wrestler, but whenever I was 14 years old, I got a back injury.
Mm.
And I was specifically told by a doctor that if I even landed on my back wrong, I could paralyze myself.
Oh, well, yeah,
like,
wrestling wouldn't be for you.
Wrestling definitely, yeah. But I'm happy with what I got. I'm actually Ripley branch manager now, so I kind of make the rules, make the matches, stuff like that.
Okay.
So I'm happy with where I'm at, being able to talk and all that kind of stuff. But I was kind of ecstatic because I've heard, Poker Face was running Millington Mayhem. And I would have never thought that he would have ever have a spot for somebody like me on his show.
Yeah.
And I cannot remember which one it was, but he had messaged me out of the blue. It was like a year after I started with NWA Mid-South. Maybe about a year and a half, he reached out to me and said, hey, can you come do the audio for Millington Mayhem? Because we all know how hectic he gets.
Yeah.
The day of. So
absolutely,
just to take take something off of his shoulders.
Yeah.
And I think I've been doing audio for Millington Mayhem 6, 7 years, 8 years, something like that.
That's a big help for him too, really. I mean, because you can only get pulled in so many directions, and he starts buzzing around like Tasmanian devil and starts cussing and yelling, and it's eventful.
Oh yeah. I think there's been one time that I've had to miss because I had switched jobs and I didn't let my new job know I needed off that day. But other than that, speaking of that, I'm pretty sure you'll be there this year. Maybe
I will be in attendance. I will be at the building. That's all I can say. I don't know if I'll even have my bag with me, but I'll come and hang out and maybe help out in the back or something. He's got a crop of young guys. Heck, he don't need my old butt in there no more. So I come hang out and share my wisdom, whether they want to hear it or not.
Oh yeah. Which me and like I said, I think you had commented on it, but yeah, we had Poker Face as a guest.
Yeah.
And we
that's when I saw your opening video was really good.
Oh yeah. That's best $5 I've ever spent.
Oh, pretty good,
yeah. And but yeah, me and him finally talked about it because usually the way it works with us is usually I wait until he usually waits till the last minute and go, hey, and it's the greatest thing ever. He messaged me, goes, hey, I go, hey. He goes, be there at Millington Mayhem. I go, cool, and that's it.
Yeah. I get a lot of yo's in my text messages. Yo, and I go.
Mine's been yo's the past couple years.
Yeah.
Mine started out as A's and then it went to yo's.
Okay. He thinks he's Razor Ramon.
Yeah. The other thing about it is that's how Greg Anthony messaged me too. That's how he starts it.
Oh, really?
Every time he messaged me, all I get is yo, and I want to message back, hey yo, but I just go yo. I don't want to get him into that.
Oh yeah, because he'll cut a whole promo on you.
Oh yeah. Well, we're going to slowly bring this to a closing. Like I said, it's been great talking to you. You know,
Yes, sir.
we maybe set up a part two for this. I got quite a few part twos I want to get done.
Okay.
Um, before we end this out, I got just one more thing that I want to talk about, and then we just got John Michael. He's always interactive with these, always leaving
Well,
comments. I love him.
that's good.
Yeah, so we're gonna go over this comment with John Michael. See if you remember this.
Yeah. I do. I'm trying to remember if they made anybody mad doing the voice, but yeah, he was doing Fink like the entire night. Oh God, yes, I remember that. Yeah, see, little stuff like that is, you know, and John Michael remembers a lot of it apparently, but little things
Yeah,
like that are what you remember after you're done, sacrificing your body for the wrestling business.
yeah,
And that stuff matters down the road. So yeah, I remember that. Sigmund, he's a good dude, man. Me and him almost knocked each other out one night on a shoulder tackle. So we hit heads.
mm,
And if you butt heads with Sigmund, you've done something because he's got a dome on him. And my head's not small, but mighty. It was there.
yeah. Whenever I first come into NWA Mid South, I think he was one half of the Heat Seekers.
Yes. Very
Yeah,
good tag
yeah.
team. Very
Oh yeah,
good tag team.
oh yeah, yeah. They were against the Iron Empire for the NWA World Tag Team titles at the
Now
time.
was that when Rob Conway was tagging up with Riviera?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, the Iron Empire were at that time the NWA, World Tag Team Champions, and then them and the Heat Seekers, they went back and forth. I think the Iron Empire actually dropped them to the Heat Seekers in Ripley, Tennessee, and then I think they regained them again in Ripley, Tennessee. Now, don't get
Okay.
me wrong about that. That I don't remember. But one more
Yeah.
thing from John Michael.
Yes, he does.
Uh,
Five head.
yeah, but so while we bring this to the close, tell the good people at home what's the future of Alan Steele looking like?
Wow. I'm playing that by ear, to be honest.
Yeah,
I It would take something real special for me to want to compete on a regular basis again.
yeah,
Uh, I just think my window is past. You know what I mean? I I started in '97. It's 2025. This is year 28 for me. Um, I was going to stop at 20 years. I got to do a lot of stuff,
yeah,
but as far as the future goes, I mean, I just don't have it in me to jump on the highway every weekend. You know what I mean? And go to these towns and stuff. So maybe a couple times a year. Anytime that they get Michael Berry involved, and if they want me there with them, I'll be there. Now that's a given. As far as me by myself, um, it would take a lot of moving parts to make that work, especially on a regular basis. Like a one off here and there, yeah, maybe. I'll say this for sure. Even if I continue to do a couple of events a year, either at 50 will be it, or at 51 will be it. I just got to decide what's more important to me, hitting 50 years old in the wrestling business or 30 years in the wrestling business. It's only 1 year difference either way. But if I can have one match a year
yeah,
at at each age, then I'm good. The one that I'm working on later on this year will be past my birthday, so that'll cover me for another year.
yeah,
So I mean, we'll see. I honestly, physically, like I wrestled for Hub City Wrestling in
Mm.
Selmer a couple months ago, 3 months ago, something like that.
'Cause it's a
Uh,
newer company, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was just
And
made last year?
well, they just started being on TV around Jackson last
Okay,
year. I think they
okay,
were already doing events, but non-televised stuff.
gotcha.
But I wrestled Danny Dollar there, and everything felt fine.
Okay.
I just, I'm older. The metabolism don't work like it used to, so it's hard to get in ring shape. Like it was when you're in your 20s and 30s. It's a lot harder when you're in your 40s. So me to prepare for a match, like I used to listen to the Undertaker say, he used to just stay ready, so he didn't have to get ready. And now
Yeah,
he has to get ready because he's not active. And so I know what he's going through. And not saying I'm on the level of the Undertaker as far as his preparation, but I know what he means when you start looking at the calendar and you're going, crap, I got 3 months. I gotta clean up my eating. I gotta quit, drinking these sodas. I gotta, get my butt on the treadmill, go to the gym. And that makes it's become more laborious and more work than a lifestyle at this point to me. And so I would love to, still I've got some trainees that contact me every now and then and ask me advice because I don't do the training for Memphis anymore or Dustin's company, whatever we're calling that. Uh, it was championship wrestling for Memphis at first, and that was cool because that was different than anything around. And now it's just Memphis wrestling. And a lot of people don't call it Memphis wrestling because they say it's not and whatever. But I've got some trainees that still contact me every now and then for advice, and I'm always willing to do that, give advice, and help out as far as that stuff goes. But as far as me competing, it's time for the the current generation to take off and make it theirs. Because I mean, Derek, he's less matches today, and he's 30 years in.
yeah,
Everybody from my generation is on the other side of the top of that hill. You know what I mean? So the Chris Rockers, the Johnny Dotsons, although Johnny Dotson's having the time of his life right now, but
yeah,
you know, I can tell you, he says 50 when he hits 50, that's it for him, and he's 47, so he's only got a short, shelf life, still. And most of the guys, like the Power Pro guys that were with us, most of them don't do anything anymore. So, uh, I mean, there's still a few of them still doing it all the time, and bless them. I I
yeah,
I, I admire them for being able to do that. It's just it when I know that I had checked off all my boxes, it it took it out of being a major priority for me. So
yeah,
I just focused on daily life. And if I get an offer or an opportunity to put the band back together with Barry or something, I'm not going to pass on those. But as far as just bringing me in to do something, man, I got a really nice couch I like to sit on a lot. So it's hard for me to leave the house a lot.
yeah, yeah. I know. I kind of keep because, like I said, I've spent 8.5 years with this company, but speaking from professional wrestling side of it, I talked to Poker Face about this. I know Poker Face would never do it, but we always talk about that drive down Highway 51.
Oh, that is
Sometimes,
the
you know,
longest 2 hours ever.
yeah, you'll eventually run into our little town on Saturday nights, Dyersburg, Tennessee, and there's a tag team we got down here on Saturday nights called the Punishment Company. I
Hmm.
don't know if you've heard of them yet.
I'm not
They're
not familiar with them yet.
they're the team of David Jason Rose and Thud Powell.
Okay, I've
They're
heard of I've heard of Thud. I've seen, I guess, probably on Facebook or something. I've heard of
yeah,
him. I'm not familiar with the other guy though.
yeah, yeah. They're two young guys. but from like I said, from we'll talk from the professional wrestling side of it. They got their attitudes and stuff like that. So I wouldn't mind, maybe the powers of be booking a punishment company versus genetic perfection
Mm,
match. Maybe,
yeah.
I definitely think it
Yeah.
would
I
be
mean,
a banger of a match.
yeah. Well, again, if Cuz is on board, then I'm usually right behind him. So
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
it's a lot longer drive for him than it
Yeah,
is me to get there. So yeah, I mean, never say never.
that's how I always say it. Yeah, and of course, here we are, John Michael. Got to get his comments in. Love John Michael to death. Let's let's get this one last comment in.
um, that would be amazing and pretty much a miracle, to be honest with you. With some of the personalities, I don't know if you could get Dustin and Johnny in the same room, uh, unless it was unless it was a courtroom. I'm just saying, they just there's a dislike there that won't probably be settled anytime soon, and it's sad that that's that way. You know what I mean? But that would be a nice collection of brains all in one uh, war room or whatever you would want to call it, and there'd be very creative. Oh, I know exactly. Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. The potential of what could come out of that if everybody could get on the same page would be amazing. It'd be very good.
Oh
Uh,
yeah,
that would cover a lot of ground, and then you just on the business side of it, you just gotta get the pieces in because those would be some strong pieces there. But you got to get the pieces in place, like financially and sponsors and that type. You got to have somebody that could line all that up too. If you could get that in place with that group of leaders back behind the scenes, then you could put something very special in front of the fans. Very special.
oh yeah, oh yeah. I agree 100%. Well, Alan, I guess we're gonna close this out. Um, so just tell to finish this out. Tell the people what are you up to nowadays, and give them any last final farewell words.
Um, I'm just living a normal life, you
Yeah,
know. Um, I've got a wife and a dog and friends and family that I care for tremendously. And I wake up every day and I count my blessings that I'm here, and then I'm for the most part healthy.
go ahead.
I don't have any ongoing, daily struggles. I mean, my knees are they tell me and remind me of all those top rope splashes every time I go up and down my stairs at the house. But I I'm feeling a lot better than I was just a couple years ago before, thanks to the chiropractor.
Yeah,
Uh, they've helped me out a lot. Um, but I just live a normal life, man. I love to laugh, and I poke fun at my friends and expect the same in return.
yeah,
And I just try to enjoy life one day at a time. Um, Especially as I get older, it seems like life moves quicker than it's like every year moves faster than the previous. Um, but as far as to the fans, I mean, everybody says it. There's no us without y'all. Um, if you've ever taken the time to attend a event I was on, listen to a podcast that I was on, whether you booed or cheered or cussed or I've been spit on, I had a guy pull a knife, I've had my life threatened, and and I loved every minute of it. So, um, I thank the fans because that's what we're here for. Um, I thank all the wrestlers who ever shared a locker room or a ring, the referees, everybody, man. Because it's what do they say? It takes a group, it takes a community to get it right. There's so many move. You've been backstage at a ton of wrestling events.
Oh yeah.
There's so many moving parts that if something's out of place, something's not going to go right. So
Yeah.
it takes a big collaborative effort to really get it right. Uh, I hope everybody is supporting wrestling these days. I do. I don't get to watch much of it like I would like to. Like I watched Saturday Night's main event last night, and I watched the Rumble. But as far as watching anything on a regular basis, I miss out on a whole lot of that stuff. But I mean, I don't know what else to say, but thank you to all the guys who ever believed in me, whether they're the older generation who gave me the words of wisdom and gave me encouragement to work on myself and get better, and just point out when I was screwing everything up. To the younger guys who I get to do the same thing to them. I get to say, hey, you don't do this because of this. And I'm telling you because I've made all the mistakes. When I train people, that's what I tell them. I'm teaching you from my mistakes and what I've learned from other people. And I'm trying to prevent you from making the same mistakes that I made so you could be better than I was. I mean, that's kind of the goal. It's like having kids. I don't have any children, but I know every parent wants their child to be more successful than they are. That's kind of the thing. And so I want the young trainees that I had. I want them to all find success, and I want them to enjoy wrestling for what it's really intended to be. I hope that the politics don't get in the way and all of that kind of thing. But again, just thank you to everybody, partners, opponents, fans, everybody, for showing up. That's a big part of it, So I appreciate you having me on here. And if there's a part two, I'm sure maybe get more questions from other people except John Michael.
Yeah.
I know today's a big football day, and they got the championship games going on for the divisions and everything. I was like, man, we might have picked a bad day, but hey, it's all good. I'll talk about wrestling as long as I'm asked about wrestling. So you want to do it again, I'm all for it, man. Just let me know.
All right, cool deal, my brother. Cool deal. Just one last final words from John Michael for you, and then I'll send you back into the backstage area and we'll finish this up.
I appreciate that, John Michael. We had some very good times. The camaraderie. That's one of the things that when you don't do it as often, you miss the most. So I got love for you guys. I watched John Michael grow up. I mean, really, So he'll always have a special place in my heart and in my what I can remember in those memories. But yeah, man. But again, thank you. I'm not trying to take up your whole day. And I'll let you close this thing out, and we'll do it again sometime.
All right, then. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and put you back in the backstage area. Like I said, I really appreciate you coming on, man.
Hey, I appreciate you having me, man.
All right. We'll talk more after we cut this off.
Okay. All right.
All right, brother. All right. Give me one
Thanks.
second. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in to episode 8 featuring all that Alan Steele. We hope everybody enjoyed the episode. Sadly, due to unforeseen circumstances, I did have to cancel next Sunday's episode, so there will not be an episode next week. but it will be announced Monday who our next episode guest will be. I guess I'll go ahead and tell you guys it is none other than the first guy to actually comment on this, Mr. Cordell Roberts, will be our next guest on the Mid-South Wrestling Center podcast. Hope everybody has a great rest of their Sunday or Monday, and see y'all next time.